This is To Help You Heal, and I'm your host, Marie Monville. We are going to spend 10 minutes talking about healing. What kind of healing do you need? Is it in your mindset? Is it emotional healing? Is it spiritual healing? You know, there's a lot of healing that we all need, and this is where you're going to find it every week, 10 minutes on Tuesday. I'm so glad you're spending this time with me. Welcome back to another episode of To Help You Heal. This week, we're talking about why we stay stuck. This is relative to the big things in our life as well as those small, seemingly insignificant choices we make. If we think about the year as a whole, I think most of us would assume that we make the most change or have the biggest impact in January. We start out the year with resolutions and goals and all kinds of new ideas, but the truth is, for most of us, we're not achieving the things we set out to do. And actually, the end of the year becomes the most impactful, the place where we achieve the greatest output, where most of the change happens in our lives. And whether it's a conscious choice or not, I would imagine that we come into this place of thinking, there are things that I said I was going to do this year. I better hurry up and do them. And that applies to me. Maybe that applies to you too. But in the past few weeks, I've been thinking about some areas in my life where I've wanted to make a change, things that I have not yet done, and saying to myself, all right, we better get this finished. 2024 is winding to a close. And as I think about that, then it begs the question, well, why haven't I done this? Why didn't I do this sooner? Why am I in this place of being stuck? So let's talk about this. Why do we feel compelled to stay stuck in situations or circumstances that aren't serving us? And I think if we understand why it is that we stay stuck, it can help us to find the freedom we need from those places and captivate this area, that keeps us moving forward in real change. And for me, it's always about the why question. That's what I always want to zero in on. It's not just that I do something or that I don't do it, but why? And there are a couple reasons that are relative for most of us. Sometimes it's the fear of the unknown. We might not love the circumstance we're in or the reality that we have, but it's known. We know it. And the unknown feels a little bit scary or risky. Many times, if we're trying to make some kind of change, we are already thinking about what that's going to look like as it plays out down the road. And we can get in those places of fear, kind of thinking about, well, what if it doesn't work out? Or what is that going to mean for me? Can I make this happen? And unknown situations can feel safe to us if we're willing to look at it from a positive lens. We don't have to know how everything's going to work out. We just have to be consistent in our steps and understand that we can do it, believe in ourselves to make the change. Sometimes it happens out of comfort and habit. We've talked about this before. The power of routines, even routines that we did not intend to create. We all have routines that were unintentional, but they often become this place of comfort, this thing that we do. How many of us reach for our phones in the morning when we wake up and inevitably find ourselves scrolling through social media? I think most of us would say that's a habit that we did not intend to create, but it's happened. That's a place of staying stuck. Why do we reach for our phones and scroll? Is it because we're bored? Is it because we want a distraction? Why are we doing that? If we better understand why we're doing it, it helps us to be able to cultivate this place of change. Sometimes it's self doubt. We are really good at coming up with all kinds of reasons why we can't do something instead of having self confidence, reminding ourselves of places that we've grown before, knowing that we always figure it out. We can figure this out too. Sometimes we stay stuck because of social pressures or expectations from other people. We can feel like we have to stay, even if we're in a situation that doesn't make us happy. And here's one that we undoubtedly all do: confirmation bias. When we believe that we're stuck or we're not good enough, we seek out evidence to support that. And it becomes this mental loop that can trap us in self sabotaging patterns where whatever it is that we're looking for, we're going to find it. You hear me say it all the time: perspective is everything. If we are telling ourselves we can't do something or we're not good enough, we're going to find the evidence we need to back that up. So, if we understand those reasons, if we can say, yes, I do some of those things, let's talk about change and our resistance to change. When it comes to change, our brain doesn't like it most of the time. It likes patterns and certainty because they use less energy. Our brain wants to stay comfortable. Wants to run on the least amount of energy necessary. And so oftentimes our brains are literally wired to resist change. It can also happen from fight, flight, or freeze. We can even add a fourth one on there, cope. In any situation, we come into it with this aspect of we'll either fight it, flight, we're going to run away from it, we're going to freeze, or we're going to try to cope. Any coping mechanism becomes a part of our survival system. How many of us are using coping mechanisms that really aren't serving us well? And then sometimes we feel the discomfort because of cognitive dissonance. Staying stuck feels easier than facing the gap between where we are right now and where we want to be. Again, it comes back to that place of the unknown. So, okay, we understand that we do this. We know a little bit of why. Now we get why our brain wants to resist some change. So, let's talk about what it's costing us to stay stuck, because I think a lot of times we have to understand what's the cost and what's the benefit. Maybe the benefit doesn't feel great enough to get us to move forward, but maybe it's the cost that makes us want to move. Recognizing what this is going to cost us to stay stuck in this place. Sometimes that's the thing that gets our attention, and we say to ourselves, okay, I have to make this change because I don't want that thing. And, sometimes it's the emotional impact. If we're staying stuck, is it causing stress or frustration? Is it lowering our self esteem? Is it impacting our physical health? Things like lack of motivation. Is it causing sleep issues? Are you waking up during the night thinking about scenarios where you're feeling stuck and you want to move forward, but then all those other thoughts are racing through your head? Is it evidenced by our relationships? Sometimes we end up with strained relationships leading to resentment because of our mindset and not wanting to be in the place where we are. And then a lot of times, one of the costs we'll see is missed opportunities. When we're staying stuck, we're limiting ourselves from seeing new potentials, discovering new things on the horizon, going after something that we want. So, when you think about it for yourself, which of those things really resonate with you? For you, what's that place of the reason why you're staying stuck? Is it the fear of the unknown? Is it comfort or habits or self doubt, social pressures, confirmation bias, looking for the evidence? You understand, why your brain is doing this. And now, are you able to see the costs a little bit differently? Because if we want to say, okay, I don't want that stuff, I don't want extra stress, I don't want the emotional impact, or I don't want it to impact my physical health, then sometimes that is the evidence we need to say, all right, I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to move forward. So I would ask you, where's the one place that you want to be unstuck before you roll that calendar over into 2025? What's the one place that, as I've been talking and you've been listening to the podcast today, you're thinking, yes, this absolutely applies to this area of my life? Where's one place that you need to change? Because we don't need to change it all at once. We just need to change one thing at a time and do that with one small step at a time. So let's talk about how to take action. What can we do to help us stay in that place of the thing you've identified, the steps you need to take? Sometimes one of the things we can do that really is meaningful is to journal. Journal about what's keeping us in the current situation. Writing it down can help us see some hidden fears, help us identify our motivation to move forward. Do some visualization exercises. Visualization is very powerful. Picture what your life's going to look like when you make that change or let go of the thing that's holding you back. It can help it feel more real. It can help you see that you really can do this. And then just take one little tiny step at a time. Doesn't have to be big steps, just the consistency to build that foundation of change, one small step at a time, and challenge your beliefs. When you hear something in your head like, I'm not good enough or I can't do this, reflect on that and change those statements. Remind yourself of how far you've come, other places that you've accomplished change in the past, and change those statements. And then, of course, have a strong support system. Maybe you want to ask a friend, hey, let's partner on this. Let's hold each other accountable. What's the change that we both want to see in our lives before we get to the end of this year? Having that accountability partner can make all the difference. And as you're inviting them to partner with you, you're also going to help them to capture these places of change that they want for their lives as well. So I hope that that is an encouragement to you. I hope that you have come away from this with an aspect of understanding why we stay stuck, why your brain doesn't like change, what you can do about it, and even thinking through what's the one area you want to go after, what's the first step you need to take, and how are you going to keep yourself on track. Come on back next week. You know that I'm passionate about helping you create a life that you love, find the healing that you need, make the changes in your life that you need to change. And November is a great month to do it. I'll see you back here next week.